All right, welcome to the Ownership Podcast. Today, I'm excited to speak with Chad Burnett, the Director of Operations with LPKF. Chad, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, LPKF is a global leader in PCB prototyping systems and laser based material processing technologies that power innovation across electronics, automotive, medical devices, advanced manufacturing. That was a mouthful, but it sounds like you guys do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that and much more to be honest. But
Awesome. Well,
it's a
let's
great first intro.
very cool. Well, let's get into it. So, tell me a little bit about your background and how you actually ended up, working and essentially operating this company.
Yeah, it's a long history. I was fresh out of the Marines in the late '90s and um, was working at a local airline as a mechanic and avionics technician. And honestly, this is how old and how long ago it was. Answered an ad in the newspaper, a job ad, and did an interview, and I hit it off well with the owner of LPKF. He was the owner of LPKF USA at that time. They were a North American distributor, but an independently owned distributorship here in Oregon as an Oregon corporation. We hit it off well, and I went from a engineering just a technician at the time for service. I did field service, and we built an organization from starting with two people then. The service organization now is at nearly 20, um, and we're running a company of about 35.
Got it, man. So you guys scaled pretty good.
We scaled pretty good, yeah, especially the service and sales organization. Um, the head count really went up over the years.
Absolutely, very cool. So, from an operations standpoint, what does the company actually enable for customers that they couldn't really realistically do before? Like, kind of dive into the problem that you guys are solving.
Yeah, the problem we really solve is to, being careful not to oversimplify it because it's a very technical. Uh, there's a technical approach to it, but is to get an idea to the market much faster. Um, and that's in terms of typically PCB production or PCB prototyping. Uh, the traditional way of doing that involves a lot of chemicals and masks and tooling and time, outside vendors, and we can assist in getting the idea sometimes as little as hours to weeks instead of months.
Wow.
We can get the and not just the first idea to a hardware to a product, but we can have iterations along the way,
That's very
and
impressive.
that's keeping everything in house, and not just the idea and the parts in hand, but also the IP, the intellectual property, stays in house.
Very cool.
So many iterations and trials as you go.
What from a standpoint of your guys' clients, so what does the customer base look like? I mean, are these smaller mom and pop shops? Are these massive organizations coming to you guys? What
The
is that?
answer is yes, to that. So I myself have worked with guys working in their garage, um, from from hobbies to just an idea that somebody wants to launch, entrepreneurs, all the way to um, Fortune 50, I would say. Yeah, so really, it runs the course of it's everyone,
Yeah, and
everyone.
everybody in
Yeah,
between.
everybody in between. Yeah, and of course we can't talk. We can't talk in detail who these are, but
Of course.
it really is everybody. Yeah,
Very cool.
everybody that wants to make a prototype will and should and can use an LPKF product to do so.
That's awesome. Very cool. So let me see here. So when a company first engages you guys, let's see before. So yeah, before
hmm
they become a customer, they're just the initial engagement, right? The initial conversation. What are the typical problems they're trying to solve? And I know, like you had said, people come up with an idea, and then you guys are bringing the idea to life from essentially just inception to prototype, right?
Hmm.
and I'm assuming beyond. What are kind of the common things that people, or the common project types that people come to you with?
Yeah, yeah. Again, it varies from a simple digital circuit all the way to very, very complex RF technology. I mean, the sky's the limit on that. The problem we're actually helping to solve, again, being careful not to oversimplify it, is just to educate what's possible. The customers that we're dealing with are highly technically educated and intelligent. They just don't know what's possible. Um, and we are here just to educate them on what can be done. So typically, I would say we're solving material issues. Um, so if they want to produce something on a very specific material, we help find the solution, typically laser based or mechanically milling them. But the problem we're typically solving is just education. Um, they don't know what's possible. Most customers are not shopping. Typically, they're just stuck on something, and so we can provide a solution.
From the standpoint of not shopping, so in your guys' space, is it a competitive market from the standpoint of you guys as a manufacturer, or have you guys kind of coined the market from the standpoint as you guys are kind of the one-stop shop for doing what you guys do at this level?
It's a good question. We are really a one-stop shop for what we do. So not a lot of competition directly. Our competition is other technologies,
Hmm.
and typically more traditional technologies, right? So we're competing against other ways of doing it um, that are much more traditional. And so what we have to do is educate people on alternatives. So, for instance, like going back to the traditional manufacturing of a PCB, whether it's 1 or 1 million, it's a lot of chemicals and a lot of tools and sending things even overseas or to outside vendors. We're competing with other technology.
Pretty
Most of
fascinating.
that technology most of that is old technology.
Yeah. So you guys come in with it with fresh innovation and
Hmm.
a fresh perspective, and man, never a dull moment, I'm sure.
It's never a dull moment. That's right.
Yeah.
A lot of people refer to LPKF as really, we have solutions, but we just don't know what all the problems are yet. So kind of the backwards of traditional thinking is we have solutions and we look for problems.
Wow.
And people bring them to us every day. I have application center downstairs in this building, and there's guys down there right now trying to solve what seems to be a very, very complex issue that they didn't even know they had. They brought in materials. They wanted to know if they could remove this, but leave this, and we're going at different depths with the laser, and it's really um, yeah, it's going to solve a big problem for someone. Um, and
Yeah.
hopefully by the end of the week, we will have it figured out.
It sounds like, I mean, with what you guys do, does everybody in the company, aside from maybe like an administrative person, right, that's doing like kind of more clerical work, but everybody else, it sounds like everybody would have to have some type of an engineering background.
Yeah, it's whether it's engineering or just a deep understanding of physics and mechanics
Mhm.
sometimes is enough. And on my team in the service department in particular, um, I was just actually talking to someone this morning, and I have someone that came here directly from packing boxes over at Amazon. But we interviewed this young man and found that he just had a really deep understanding of mechanics, and he has solved many issues without an engineering background. Um,
So
yeah,
it's safe
so
to say he was slightly underutilized at
he
Amazon.
was very underutilized. Yeah, and highly intelligent, and but sees things on a level of just ultra logic. And so he didn't have an engineering background, but he had he had an engineering mind for sure.
Yeah,
Um, but we have some highly skilled engineers, um, but everybody has a good understanding of how it works for sure.
very cool. So talk to me a little bit about kind of like your from your position from the standpoint of your seat in operations, right? So
Hmm.
talk to me about like how does sales, engineering, marketing, everything kind of stay aligned, especially dealing with like very high, highly complex, high value solutions where there's a bunch of different steps, bunch of different components. Obviously, the solution is pretty complex. What
Hmm.
type of systems do you guys have that are keeping everything in line from like, completed to next step to completed? I mean, there's got to be some pretty sophisticated tracking
We
softwares.
do have some pretty sophisticated tracking software, some tools, but you know, I believe that what makes us the best is the actual sharing of information from person
Mhm.
to person. We have some complex tools. I would say not much different than most companies have. We have a universal tool that we use around the world for LPKF for sharing, all of our data as far as contact tracking, uh, information sharing, tools, parts, costs. We have all of the tools I think that most companies would have. I think sometimes what does set us apart, and we have some very good individuals at stressing this often, is information sharing. We try to leave the silos out of um, it when it comes to information. And as you've seen, we have a very diverse set of product lines,
Yes.
but we try to share the the DNA of all these product lines is still the same, um, so that we can continue to share information. Oh, hello, dogs.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Echo canceling. Here we go.
Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, we just so really, I think it's the person to person knowledge sharing um, is the key to making sure that one we can keep scaling, right? So this is the yeah, this is the key to the LPKF. Now you can't just keep information at any person. We've got to store this information. We've got to track it. We've got to share it, put it out in papers, and but it's the knowledge sharing that has really kind of set us apart.
That's great. That's awesome. All right. Let me see here. I feel like I always laugh when I'm going through this because sometimes our answers in conversation answer like two or three questions
I've
that we have.
I've got this up on my other screen too. That
That's me
stuff that
too.
we've
So we're
talked
looking.
about, and
Yep. No, that's perfect. So let me see.
yeah,
Okay, so systems stuff like that. So I mean, are you guys using any standardized like name brand CRMs
we
to
do have
facilitate
a
communication?
yes, we do have um, we have yes, we do. Yes. So we have two systems actually. We have one main CRM system that is used worldwide. Um, and then we also locally use a second one for, and this is where I'm going to get this wrong because we also have a director of sales and it's more in his wheelhouse, but he uses a CRM also for marketing tracking and so on.
Yep. So
Um,
so that you guys
yeah.
keep the two separate, where it's more information saving versus like the marketing side.
Yeah, yeah. So we have the main one is for information is for everything that should be shared internationally and
Yeah.
but as you know and for cultural reasons and a lot of different things the US does track North America handles things a little bit differently than they handle in Europe. So
I
so
would
we
I would
handle the
imagine.
yeah. Really the secrecy for they're very tightly reined in Europe for emailing. You can't do bulk emails. You can't hold people's email addresses, and you really have to be careful with this. So what we do locally is just a little bit different for contact tracking and so on.
Damn, that is so interesting.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah, I have no idea how things go in Europe, but I would imagine obviously they're very different from us in a lot of aspects, right?
a
So I would
lot of
imagine
aspects there. Yeah.
policies,
Hmm.
privacy, privacy, this, that, and the other would be all
Yep.
different.
Yep. And that's why we maintain an Oregon corporation the way we do. Uh, I was working also, this morning with a group on cybersecurity stuff that we have to do for the uh, we have to do for Department of Defense and so on. So
Yeah.
um, which doesn't apply in Europe. They don't know anything about compliance with the Department of Defense. So yeah. but it's about, it's a good portion of our customers here.
I was going to ask you. That's a good segue. So
Hmm.
you guys do a lot. Would you say, if you had to just guess on percentage, I mean, how much of your contracts are like private government contracts versus people like regular people like you and I coming
Yeah,
to you guys?
there's probably a pretty even split between um, defense, universities, and commercial. And then commercial is split between automotive, medical, and consumer devices. So yeah, to give an actual number, I probably do know it, but I'm not going to share exactly the numbers. But it is the defense is a high number, and the reason being is especially for the prototyping, I would say almost exclusively the prototyping. Um, to handle the making the devices, you have to send nothing outside. Um, so we have
Can't outsource anything, right?
right. We can make the circuit board, we can do the mechanics, we can do all of the through hole plating and all the things it takes to make a real PCB, real circuit board. We offer the tools to do that in a lab. So so if secrecy is is important, it's a perfect situation.
Yeah, you guys are the perfect fit. Do you, man, that's crazy. I was going to ask you something, but I think you already answered the question too earlier. So, like, talk to me about this. So, like, from the standpoint of kind of the flow of things, right? Like, kind of how it stages out. So, like, from
Hmm.
initial, like, let's say I have an idea and I have no idea how to bring it to life, right? So, from initial inquiry, me contacting you guys to qualifications, follow ups, like the demoing of a product, even post demoing momentum, is there anywhere in that flow where you guys kind of things kind of slowed down or like
Yeah, it seems to slow down after the initial, yes, we can do it. Um, there seems to be a dip there. Um, and yeah, so and I don't know if the reasons vary. Could
mhm.
be funding. I think funding is often, you know, a where there's a lag. So they might be operating off of grants. They might be, off, yeah, could be any number of reasons. But where I see a real lull sometimes is when you stop communicating. Um, and whether it's from, they stopped asking questions or we stop educating somewhere in there. If you stop the communication, you will see a slowdown, and that's one thing we really focus on. Not contacting customers from a marketing standpoint, but just to keep educating. If we run into new materials that we can laser process, or we keep educating, and that's what that keeps that from happening to a certain degree.
That makes
Funding, of
sense.
course, we can't. That is what it is, and because we have a lot of universities and we have a lot of folks that are running on of just different kinds of funding, um, you never know where that's coming.
Yep, can't really snap your fingers and get funding for a
That's
university
right.
overnight.
That's right.
So
That's right. They're
do a lot of your inquiries come, well, I guess it would be specific in the categories, whether it's like private defense, obviously they same thing, they have the money, but then it kind of goes through the entire hierarchy for
that's right.
permissions and
Yeah, yeah,
access and
and
stuff
those
like
can
that.
be, they can be anywhere from months to years, really.
Wow.
Yeah, and it depends. There are there are times when we get contacted, they already know what they want, and
Yeah.
then you could be looking at well, what's your lead time? It could be 15 weeks for us to build the custom, if it's at all customized. Um, but yeah, it could be years. If it's a medical devices, it's longer. They have to have a lot of trials. They have to get approvals through FDA, or
Oh
um,
man.
so that this could be much longer.
A little bit more
Um,
red tape.
a lot more red tape. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see here. Perfect. Okay, so I want to talk to you about you guys scaling, right? And from the standpoint of where you guys are, obviously where you guys have come from, where you said I believe there were two people, and now you have 30 something people.
Well, yeah,
From the
yeah. There were two in that department. When I started in the technical service department, there was two. Now there's about 20. Yeah, I think when I started, there was 12 in the in the organization. Yeah,
okay.
and we're at
So as you
35.
guys, yeah, well, but still, that's pretty incredible to scale to that degree, anyway. So where do you see your guys when you as you guys want to grow? How like are there going to be any bottlenecks from the standpoint of scaling? I mean, talk to me about whether it's inefficiencies in the process or just things that can get better. What do you think it's going to take for you guys to scale, and what is without putting dollar figures out, right? I mean, what does that
Hmm.
trajectory look like? What are some of the goals that you guys have?
Yeah. That's probably the hardest question you're going to have to ask me. Even though it's the one I probably should, I should know the best. Um, I have a belief that, and this is my belief. This maybe not the company or otherwise, but that we need to figure out how to scale in knowledge, um, not necessarily headcount. Now, of course, common sense. We have to grow in certain areas. We have to, if we want to sell more, at some point you have to have more sales manpower. If you want to service more, you have to have some service manpower. Um, but focusing on scaling in knowledge, I think is the key. How you do that, that remains to be seen. I don't know if there must be tools for that, right? I know that simple AI tools are really becoming important for us. Now, again, our headquarters and in Europe, they are still behind in this because they have regulations that almost prohibit the use of some AI tools. So in the office space, I use ChatGPT for some things, and they can't do that at this point. So, um, but I think simple ways of speeding up the learning process, the knowledge transfer, the growth of employees and in their knowledge, and finding ways to get rid of the noise and train and teach each other what's really important. I think is how we need to scale.
Perfect.
Um,
That's awesome.
I don't know if that's perfect because I don't know what that looks like yet. Like,
Well, if you knew
what's out there. And yeah.
if you knew the equation, and that's when I talk to business owners, either people that's typically the response, right? People say, "Look, I don't want to hire a bunch more people. If I could
Hmm.
achieve that same growth trajectory with implementing automations, AI, what have you, right? Like the tools that are available
Yeah.
now. I mean, that
Yeah.
acceleration without the extra payroll expense is pretty
Yeah.
much the way that everybody's kind of leaning towards.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we all know that we want to increase revenue and reduce costs. This is
Right.
really, if you don't think about that, then you're not running a business at all. You're not an owner, you're not an operator. But yeah, how do you do that without simply adding headcount is the real trick.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and as a service manager by that's been my career until recently. Um, that was always my thought too. It's like, well, my product is the people. So if I can't, how am I going to increase revenue if I don't have more people to sell? But that's changing. Um, yeah, it's information, not necessarily manpower. We still have to do physical things. We have to do maintenance and we have to do training and installations and we still have to do certain things. But
Yeah.
it's the knowledge is the real thing that we need to somehow transfer and scale. Um,
Very, very good. All right, let's see. So from the standpoint of automations, we both kind of hit that on the automations and the AI, right? So like, do you
mhm.
guys, from the standpoint of right this second, would you say you guys are up to kind of par from the standpoint of system automations and AI, or
No,
would you be behind the
no,
ball a little
we're behind the curve, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I have to be careful what I say, as this will be public. But
bit? Understood.
we have an international. Um, we talked about it a little while ago. We have this international. um, database. I don't even know see, it's not a CRM per se, but it holds part numbers, it holds inventory, it puts out all kinds of data. We have to put in all kinds of data from revenue to, I mean, it does it all the way to accounting,
Yep.
but it is a manpower drag, really. I know it puts out a lot of great information. I get a lot of great information out of it. I don't know if you're familiar with Power BI,
Mhm.
but it's a tool that pulls information out of a bigger system. And I can look at every KPI there is. And this for me is really great. But
Yeah.
for the people that have to click all day long putting stuff in, I believe I believe there's a problem with it. It's too much manpower, too much time putting in data.
When
Um,
I would say, and would you agree that when there's that much data that's manually being inputted, I mean, the chance for human error
Big,
is
it's huge, and I see it
drastic.
all the time.
And
Hmm.
you guys are obviously
Yeah,
relying on those KPIs to be accurate to make pretty big decisions.
right, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Now I say we're behind the curve. We don't corner the market on this either. It's everybody I talk to in every other company that's at this mid management kind of level. It's always the same. It's always the same story.
Yeah.
Seems like.
No, that makes sense. And I know I would assume so because of the government type contracts that you guys have. It's you have to be very again, we're talking about red tape
Hmm.
here. You have to be
Yeah,
very specific with, every little critique and
we
everything,
do.
every software, every adjustment, every automation.
Hmm. Yep,
Makes sense.
yep. Yeah, and again, I was having a meeting this morning with exactly that. We have to submit to all kinds of audits, just to maintain, some certification for cybersecurity and so on.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it has to be very, you have to be very careful with it.
makes sense. So let me ask you this. So do you guys have I'm sure from being in business as long as you have, you guys have a pretty big list from the standpoint of inquiries or past clients. I mean,
Hmm.
like engineers, the R&D teams, the past inquiries. So do you have just a big database of those types of potential inquiries, potential leads that are kind of
Yes.
just okay? What are the
Yeah.
current processes for the sales guys, from the standpoint of retargeting or retouching, or how does that work right now?
Yeah, I don't have a real deep insight to what their exact process is. I know that they do have them. They work hard on it all day. From what I understand, because they use a combination of the two softwares, um, that the history data that we have is kept in the one that we have locally. So if I want to call a customer or a potential customer from 5 years ago, they're using one tool for that,
Okay.
and that's the tool they also use for marketing. Um, Anything from 1.5 years ago and on, they're using the international tool.
Okay.
Um, what they do on a daily basis and how they juggle those back and forth, I really.
Yeah, that's a. You said your business partner on the other side of the business
Yeah.
is
Hmm.
managing all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know that he's got a lot of pain points with exactly what you're talking about. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's the managing of the sales team is a very specific skill set. That's my
Yeah.
background and where I come from
Is
initially.
it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. We have a sales team of, yeah, what do they have? Six or eight guys, I guess, or six or eight people. Yeah.
6 to 8. And then
Um,
what
yeah.
about the other departments from the standpoint uh like lower level, kind of like entry level, like administrative, or even the people that are responsible for the data entry? I mean, what does that headcount look like if you just have kind of rough numbers?
Um, well, one of the things that the we do here, at least in LPKF USA, and we're also kind of considered the benchmark around the LPKF community, is we all wear different, let's say, different hats here. Um, and again, we don't corner the market on that. A company of this size doing the kind of revenue that we do, you have to do that. But for instance, our the sales assistant, she's also the HR manager. So so to really to answer the question would be difficult because um, there's a few people that's what they do, but I don't have any just uh, admin people. I would say,
Okay.
I have three people in the finance and accounting department. Everybody else is really either in sales or in service. Um, we have one administrative assistant, and she also takes care of the trade show scheduling and some of the marketing things. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Do you guys, I think one of my last biggest, well, not biggest, but one of my last questions, and I was just thinking about this as we're talking. So would you say, I know everybody wears a bunch of different hats. What would be the like single-handedly for your position, let's say, because I know obviously, like you said, you're not the sales guy, right? And you're not the sales manager. You're specific and very good at what you do on operations. What would be the single-handedly, what would be the biggest task for you that you're still doing on a day-to-day basis, that if it was in fact automated, like what's the biggest task that you say would be the most helpful for it to actually be automated for you and to have that time?
Oh, you know, if I had a better system for inventory, because we do a pretty high volume of spare part sales, consumable sales, um, and most of these come from our headquarters, and most of the inventory is held in Germany. We have some here, but I struggle with my service team and with my logistics team identifying spare parts, identifying quantities that are on hand, identifying proper pricing. These are really, I would say, if this could be somehow automated in a better way, then this really would relieve a lot of time for a bunch of us, myself included.
That makes
Because I
sense.
have a longer history here, I understand the spare parts. I understand how what goes into the machinery and all these things. I'm still highly involved in identifying parts and setting pricing, making phone calls to ask if we have them in stock in headquarters because the system's not showing either not showing a number or the part number is inaccurate. So many different things that get in the way. Yeah.
That's a little tough to be able to almost like kind of second guessing the inventory from the standpoint of what's in the system, right? What's showing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. I can
And
imagine.
if it's not accurate 5 times out of 10, then the other 5 times out of 10, you can't trust it. So you have to follow up on everything. And,
Yeah. No, that
and
and that definitely takes that
yeah,
extra time for sure.
yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah. So if there was, and this is something that I would say in the system that we use is somehow automated, but I think, and this is, I'm going to say I think, because it's what I really mean is I think on the other end in Germany, there's too much human interaction. And I think what you're getting to, it's relying on somebody to sit there and enter that data, and it's either wrong or it's not getting done.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, listen, Chad, that's all the questions I have for you. If people want to know more about the company and what you guys do, what's the best place to get in contact with you guys or find out more information?
Yeah, the simple way would be just to go to our website, lpkfusa.com or lpkf.com. They both work. We have our own landing page here at LPKF USA, or lpkf.com. We'll hit the international page and can be directed to us. Um, I would say this is the best place to start and to see if we have a solution for a problem you might have.
It's awesome. Very cool.
Now,
Well, thank you for that information. All right, guys, and that's it. We'll wrap up the episode. Definitely contact Chad if you guys have an opportunity and see what they can do for you.
very good. Thanks, Ryan.